Give me one kiss, mama, just before I go. I'm gonna leave with you, baby, and I ain't coming back no more.
Hello, everyone. We're here to talk about oral history and how to do your own oral history interviews. So you're probably wondering, what's oral history? Have you ever sat down with an older person, say your grandmother, and asked about her life? Maybe what was school like when she was a girl?
When we went to the new school, to the elementary school, that's when you started to understand or to realize that there was something different about being with white children because we'd never been with them before.
Maybe you've asked your grandfather how he got his first job.
I cut grass, knock on people's doors, cut grass, dug ditches. Yep.
And I learned how to drive on them big old 10-speed trucks, yeah. Oh, yeah. All that weight on it, and just did it. I didn't have a license. So I was getting in some of his trucks when I was about 15 years old, and I was driving his trucks. That was life back then. It was.
Or what his experiences were like during segregation.
I came up with white and black. Some of them were nasty, and some of them were good.
Chances are, your questions prompted some interesting stories.
Me and this white boy we was buddies, and we walked together. And they waited on him, they wouldn't wait on me. He said, if you can't wait on him, you can't wait on me. And he started the fight. I helped him to fight. So we wrecked the place.
If you know what I'm talking about, then you've got a head start on doing oral history. Oral history is a method of collecting original information about the past from people's personal recollections through recorded interviews. It's a tool you can use to preserve the voices, memories, and stories of your family members or friends in their own words. And just like oral tradition, which is practiced by every culture on every continent, it's a way to pass down knowledge and stories from generation to generation.
So, why do you think it's important to pass on these stories?
Well, you hear sayings that people make a lot of times that how will you know where you're going and if you don't know what you've come from? It's important to know what and who paved the road for you because you didn't do it by yourself.
The sample clips you're about to hear are from actual interviews collected from the Takoma Park African American Oral History Project. As you listen, pay attention to the types of questions the interviewer asks and how she keeps quiet while the person is talking.
I'd like you to orient us. So there were 3 Black communities within Takoma Park. Talk about how they were different and the relationships between them. Paint us a picture.
This is what's called the bottom because we were at the bottom of Takoma Park. The hill, it was called the hill because they were at the top of Takoma Park, more or less. And then they had another, Lincoln Avenue, I believe it was another neighborhood. A lot of people that came to our particular neighborhood were like my uncle told my cousin and my cousin told my uncle, and we just, boom, oh, this is a neighborhood for us. When my grandfather came here, he came with 13 kids, and they came in a boxcar, and they had pigs and chickens.
While traditional history focuses on the facts of the past, oral history captures the experience of the past, and as people remember having lived it or witnessed it. History tells us what happened. Oral history tells us what it was like to be there, even what it sounded or smelled like. It brings the past to life.
Can you describe the sounds of the community? Bells, chickens, things that come to mind when you were a kid?
Oh, as a kid. Oh, wow. Yeah. Everybody, wow, I haven't thought about that in a while. Just about everyone in this neighborhood had chickens. We had chickens, a duck, and a turkey, and rabbits. I remember that. And a rooster, of course, who woke everybody up. The one sound that everybody knew was Sunday morning when the church bell rang. That was the letting you know, okay, today is the Lord's day. And this is where you're supposed to come. And my father rang that bell every Sunday morning.
So in my grandmother's backyard, we used to raise chickens. And the funniest thing for me is when she used to take them and put them on the little stump and chop their head off, and the chicken will run around the yard with no head on. Or either she'd take it and put it in her hand and whirl it around and then snap his neck and wring it. And that was so funny to us because we didn't know, we dumb kids, we didn't know any different. We didn't know that that's what it was for.
History often focuses on prominent people in major events. Oral history captures details of everyday lives of ordinary people in your own family or community.
When you talk about being sharecroppers, are you
Referring
talking
to
about Mississippi or what?
Yeah, when they came from Mississippi, they were supposed to have been sharecroppers coming from Mississippi to here.
So how did you end up in Takoma Park? What was your immigration story? How'd your parents get here?
Well, my mother said that she told Daddy, "If I'll marry you if you get me out of Virginia." Yeah, because I'm tired of farming.
They did very well on their farms, and but of course, some farmers supplemented their income with doing other things. My Uncle Roland indicated at a family reunion that my grandparents left the farm because the sheriff was after my grandfather. They had already caught several members of the family moonshining in the backwoods. And that was interesting. I was like, well, really? And he said, yeah, the sheriff was after him.
That's what happened. They left Virginia to come here to get work.
When you interview your elders about their memories of people, places, and experiences, suddenly the ordinary can seem extraordinary.
My dad was a World War II veteran. He was a sharpshooter. He was a brick mason, a master brick mason, and he had a 10th grade education. He had 7 kids, so he did newspapers. He laid bricks. He did whatever he had to do for us to survive.
And what kind of work did you do?
I drove the trash truck 30 years.
And all that time, were you playing music?
I played for the party, was on the job. I've been playing this like that.
You called yourself, you had a nickname for yourself.
Who?
You.
What?
You called yourself Guitar Man.
Somebody named me that. I woke up this morning, put on my highway shoes. The first thing I knew, my feet had those highway blues. I walked out on the highway. The Greyhound bus had gone. I got to think about my little woman, and I went walking on.
Our elders are our tradition bearers. They are the links in the chain of our family's oral tradition. That is, the knowledge, the stories, the customs that are passed down by word of mouth from one generation to the next. They're not written down. So if we don't record them before our elders die, we lose our stories and all that knowledge of the past.
Were you ever aware of any Ku Klux Klan activity, or did your parents talk about that coming from the South?
Oh, we had some marched up Carroll Avenue back in the 40s.
Oh, tell me about that.
All they did was just marched on up through here.
Do you know why they were, where they were going, why they were here?
just walking through. That's all I can say. They didn't do anything or nothing. I was working at the district grocery store then. I didn't even know what they were. The people I was working for, they was telling me. And their son, named Alan, Alan said that's the Ku Klux Klan. But I was 16 years old, and I wasn't interested in no Ku Klux. I thought it was just somebody parading or something.
Oral history doesn't always get the facts right. When stories and information are passed down by word of mouth, you'll often hear different versions of the same story.
Did you ever hear about the Ku Klux Klan marching down Carroll Avenue?
Well, they call them night doctors. My dad told me stories about that, and they experiment on you. I know a lady, Miss Hattie Garnick. She had one of them great big thing on her neck. She was scared to come out the house because they wanted her. They wanted her. They wanted to get that thing off her neck and experiment. But that's what they used to call them, night doctors.
And what people believe to be true tells us a lot about their values, their perspectives, what it's like to walk through the world in their shoes.
My dad carried a pistol all the time.
In case he bumped into them?
Daddy said he could hear him coming, you could hear him coming, because back then they had horse and buggy. And you could hear him coming. So you said the best thing you do is run and hide or something other. But he carried a gun with him all the time.
Now, did they only go after black people?
Uh-huh. To my knowledge. Yep, to my knowledge.
Oral history reflects what people believe to be true, based on their experience or what they were told.
Now, did your dad tell you stories, or did you ever hear about the Klan coming through here?
No, I never know nothing about that.
I never heard about the night doctors.
Oh, yeah, well, they might have been the same thing, but whatever. But they had white on.
Oh, they did? They wore robes?
Oh yeah, they had some pictures at one time. Was in the paper way back in the day, but with them with these white robes on.
When you ask people questions about their lives, sometimes hard questions about race or religion or culture, you begin to understand better who you are and why you are. What influences shaped your identity and your values? You begin to see yourself as part of the bigger story of our changing society.
Was your world at home primarily black?
It's all black. Because back then, I mean, you might have some white friends, but you didn't have a lot of white friends coming in your neighborhood, and you didn't go into their neighborhoods because sometimes you felt that you weren't wanted in their neighborhood. I mean, it's the honest truth.
Several of us, we were walking and we were going up Lee Avenue, and there was a house there. And these children ran off the porch and called us the N-word. And we thought, what is that? That never happened to us before. So we didn't really, and this is just before we were told that we had to go, we were going to be going to the new school.
So being in this really tight black enclave, how did you relate to the rest of Takoma Park? That was sort of a white world and you were in a black world.
Well, we didn't really have any problems because we went to Carroll Hollins Elementary School, which was a white school. So they didn't have much choice but to let us go there. When we went to junior high school, that was the first time that I knew anything negative. They called us the N-word, and I never knew what it was because it just wasn't used in our time and around our homes. And I never knew what it was until when she said it, it was like, what are you saying? I don't, but the way she said it, it made me say, oh, that's something dirty. Slap, slap, slap. I slapped her face because she was actually swinging on me when she said it. And I slapped her face. And I wasn't having that. After that, I was not allowed any of that to happen. And so we just had to make ourselves known.
I think what African Americans went through, and when we were young, we had a good feeling what racism was about. We could sniff it out. You knew when somebody who was not black didn't care for you. And then you knew somebody who was black that didn't care for their own race or didn't feel the way you felt. You understand what I'm saying? So, oh yeah, it was there. It was there. It was definitely there. I mean, I think at times the police would treat you different. Oh yeah. It was different. It was very different. And you just accept it as a part of life. Did you like it all the time? No, but it was just a part of life.
So, what do you want to preserve? Why do you feel these stories are important?
It's really for the generation behind us to know where they came from, if they're interested to know where they came from. They don't know, they really don't know what it meant to grow up during that time.
So, what's the value of doing oral history interviews? It's sad to think about, but people won't be here forever, especially our elders. Now is the time to ask your questions before it's too late.
People paved the road, known and unknown, before we even exist, and made it easier for our lives for when we came along. So that's why we do it. And we're trying to put this focus and not let these people die. Yes, they die physically, but we're not going to let them die spiritually.
Said I had my fun. If I don't get well no more, my health is failing me. Lord knows I'm going down slow.
By doing oral histories with members of your family or community, you'll be acting like a link in that chain of oral tradition and making sure that important stories and knowledge get passed along to future generations.
Right, and tell my mama, tell her the shape that I'm in. Right, and tell my mama, tell her the shape that I'm in. Tell her pray for me. Ask God forgive me for my sin. Don't send no doctor. Doctor won't do me no good. Don't send no doctor. Doctor won't do me no good. Just pray for me. I ain't gonna cause no trouble.